You know who has the worst odds for Coach of the Year right now?
Andy Reid.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, no.
It's poor award.
We're doing a deeper dive on Mike Sando's quarterback tiers in The Athletic. Greg Jennings is here. Jalen Hurts ranked 11th, 5 spots lower than last year. The article had lots of compliments about his character and leadership, but here were the knocks on Jalen. 1, he can't handle pure pass. When he got hurt and he became immobile and they had to throw the ball, he showed what he was. Well, okay, that's, you're hurt and immobile. What do you expect? Knock number 2. The word is out there. If you run 0 blitz against Hurts or shows 0 and back everyone out, he will panic. That has to change. They lose Jason Kelsey, who handled the protections, basically did everything.
Write that?
No, you bring in a coordinator who likes to drop back. It will be interesting. Brew, are you worried about your Eagles pick?
What was my Eagles pick?
Pick them to win the
NFC East.
Yeah.
It wasn't to win the Super Bowl.
Oh, well, we don't know that yet.
It was last year.
Hold on, we don't know that yet.
It wasn't, but I'm saying,
Predictions
I'm just saying right now, I have not picked them to win the Super Bowl. So I am not in the least bit worried about them not winning the NFC East. Because a lot of that's about the other teams in the NFC
Okay,
East.
but are you...
I think Washington with a rookie quarterback who I love is not ready. Giants, we know, aren't ready. And the Cowboys, it's just been a bad offseason, even though they signed CD yesterday.
Sure.
All right, so no, I'm not worried about it. And as far as like the criticisms of Jalen, a lot of the blitz, he definitely struggled with mightily last year. But a lot of that is also on the coaching staff and the offensive coordinator. And I do think Kellen Moore is going to really come in and help him. I think, you got to give him the answers. When we read there was the article, the long form piece about Sirianni and Jalen not getting along. A lot of it, Jalen didn't think he was getting the answers to what the defense was throwing at him. I think that's Kellen Moore's charge, and I think he'll do it. So I think they're going to be fine, and I think Jalen's going to have a bounce-back year.
All right, I want to talk about Jalen, but first, I have to say this, and I know it might sound mean. We have no evidence Kellen Moore's good. There's none.
He's good with Dak.
He was good with Dallas.
Okay, but when he left, Dak had his best year ever. So here's what I believe happened. People thought Dak was something, and he played well. People were like, oh, it's Kellen Moore. Look, it's Kellen Moore, guys. And then Kellen Moore leaves. Dak is even better. He goes to Justin Herbert, who has his worst year. I'm not saying Kellen Moore is not good. I'm saying we don't have evidence he's good.
Well, maybe Mike McCarthy's also good.
Yeah, I think Mike McCarthy is also good. But again, that has nothing to do with Kellen Moore. Is Mike McCarthy going to go coach Jalen Hurts?
I'm saying Kellen Moore can be good. And Dak,
Yes, you know who I put that
on
in L.A. with Kellen Moore? Brandon Staley.
I understand we put that on Brandon Staley. That's fine. Like I said, I didn't say Kellen Moore is bad. I just said we don't have evidence that he's good. And the most recent evidence of the place you leave got better and the place you went to got worse is not overwhelmingly positive evidence. So I don't think Kellen Moore is going to be this panacea for what ailed Jalen Hurts. I think that's a concern. I think the second quote on there is my biggest concern about the Eagles, which is I think the loss of Jason Kelsey is so massive on multiple fronts. It's massive as far as the actual job of blocking.
Sure.
It's huge. It's massive as far as everything pre-snap, which as far as protections, some quarterbacks handle, some centers handle. In Philadelphia, it's been a center. And in fact, there's a famous clip from last season of even Jalen going to change a play and Kelsey overruling him, turning him around and saying, no, we're running. Or I'm paraphrasing. And so he had as much on his play as any center. And then whatever was going on in the locker room, Jason Kelsey, obviously at the end of last year, got away from everybody, but he's the locker room leader. So all of that.
He couldn't control what happened last year,
Yeah, I love Jason Kelsey. Right. I love Travis Kelsey. But he gets the biggest pass of all time for the Eagles losing all those games. And he's like, oh, he did a great, then the leader has to bear some of that.
And that's Jalen too, but also Kelsey.
I agree with all of that. But that doesn't mean that his loss is not going to be massive.
Sure.
So all of that concerns me. And then that last point, this is where I go to you, Greg. The pure pass is the skeleton key question for all these quarterbacks. Is when Mike McDaniel can't scheme it up for you, Tua, when you're trailing, when they're not afraid of Christian McCaffrey in the run game, when they're not afraid, when it's 3rd and 12 and everyone knows you're passing, can you do it? And to me, not only is that book still out on Jalen, to me, the book would be in and it would be a no, except he was so brilliant in the Super Bowl, which has to weigh extra credit, that the book is still out. But I think these are all legitimate concerns, Greg.
They are legitimate concerns, but if I were you, Brew, and I picked them as well to win that division, I'm not concerned about it either. Look, after last year, every player is going to go back and kind of reevaluate what they did. They're going to look at the film, look at the tape. The reality is his play fell off. I would argue it didn't fall off directly after the Super Bowl. He was great the first quarter, a little bit over that, of the season last season. We were talking about him being clutch last season, Mr. Clutch, because his ability to fight back and put them in position to either win the game or in position to win the game. So for me, like, I don't look at this as a Jalen Hurts like worry situation, because we've seen him perform at a high level. It's just we haven't seen it consistently based on what we saw one complete season of, that he was great in MVP conversations. Then he dueled Patrick Mahomes, and when he had to throw, when his shoulder was hurt in that game, we all knew it, he performed greatly. Last season, every team has some bit of adversity. They just went through it and their quarterback struggled. And when a quarterback is struggling, it is hard for an offense to overcome that, period. I don't think he struggles the way that he will this year, because clearly the hope is he won't be injured. Tell me a player or any individual that is handicapped with some ability that they have that is one of their superpowers, and then you tell them to go out there and be half of that.
But if we show the Jalen Hurts, the very basic just passer rating by year, I think the concern is not that what happened last year, or what was that he was injured. It's that, and again, this is not actually, I should have looked, this is all the other years combined. But the point is, he's been around an 87 rating guy every year of his career, really 86 to 90, except for the 2022 season. The concern is that was an outlier year. It wasn't that he was hurt last year, it's that who he was the year before the Super Bowl and the year after the Super Bowl before he got injured is just who he is, which I think is a valid concern.
Before, they leaned on him to just run the ball. Like, get outside the pocket, extend the play with your legs. That's what they leaned on him for. The year they went to the Super Bowl, we saw him throw more than what we had ever seen him throw.
Yes.
And so for me, a healthy version of him poses a threat to a defense where now they have to worry about, man, he can get outside the pocket, he can beat us with his legs, and he's been beating us in the air. Well, last year, there was no threat of that. And so defensively, all your focus is going to be on, okay, he can't run. Let's force him to throw all day long. And let's be honest. There's the day of the pocket passer outside of Jared Goff. How many pocket passers do we have in this
Burrow
league?
and Goff.
Burrow still is a little more athletic. He's more athletic.
Yeah, but it's going in the other direction.
It's going so
100%.
The expectation
but I also think
for
the idea that Jalen last year was totally immobile is not accurate. He wasn't as dynamic, but he was not a statue in the pocket.
Oh.
He was not.
He was nowhere near
himself.
He was nowhere near himself.
When
when he got out the pocket, he didn't look to turn upfield. He looked to run towards the sideline, get what he can get, and get out of bounds.
So this is, then this is where I'm going to put a lot on Sirianni. Do you know what I'm going to say? Because you're laughing.
No, I'm waiting.
If your quarterback was so injured starting in November that it derailed your whole season, then why into January were you running the tush push?
Because he wants to.
Who's
he was
he?
in a weird.
I don't think the tush push was why he was injured.
No, I understand that. I don't think it is either. What I'm saying is, if we're like, man, everything is right now limited because of Jalen's knee. We want it to get better as soon as possible. Can we find another way to get a yard? Or can we have Marcus? I don't know. Was Mariota their backup last year? I don't even remember. But whomever, can we do something? That is to where either he wasn't as hurt as now is being presented, or that was just egregious coaching.
The argument, I'm not going to have a real stick it to you fight, but the argument you make for Trevor was he was in this weird reverse Goldilocks zone of too hurt to be successful, not hurt enough to miss games, and your play decreases. And we use that as a fair, not excuse, reason that his play has struggled. It seems to me that is the same thing that happened with Jalen.
So here's, I guess, what I would draw as the distinction of that. There was a single moment we saw Trevor get hurt. They tried to cart him off the field. They didn't have the cart, and from that singular moment, everything fell apart. By the way, I do use that. You dismiss it. Yeah. You instantly dismiss it. But now, if I were to say to you, when did Jalen Hurts get hurt? Nobody knows.
Yeah,
we're just like, he was just like that.
Just locked.
I'm with you. That's what hurts him too. The idea that, you know what, I don't want to talk about my injury. I don't want to disclose what's going on. So no one ever
Trevor denied rejected the cart. Didn't even want the cart.
But we saw the injury.
We saw it, yeah, because it was
so we
gruesome.
could pinpoint.
Yeah, it was gruesome. They thought it looked like compound fracture. They had to blur it out.
Is that what a compound fracture looks like?
No, they thought so. They thought it might be.
If you have children,